All right, we are ready to go. Welcome everyone, and thanks to our guests, Annabelle, Zach, and Neil for joining. Having a little virtual chat about running a Tableau CoE at your company. So kind of the format that I think we talked about doing is we'll each take a turn kind of talking about our experience with the CoE at the company that we're at, kind of just a little background on the journey, and then once we get through those, I know I've got a couple of questions for you guys, and so hopefully you guys have some questions that get generated too during the conversation. So we'll try to answer those, and then I'll try to keep an eye on the time after maybe 30, 40 minutes or so, try to leave plenty of time for Q&A for anybody that's joined. So I'm already starting to see a good list of participants coming in. So I have to keep an eye on this to make sure I let everybody in as they enter the waiting room. But as you guys have questions, if you want to ask it yourself, there is an option in WebEx to raise your hand. So just get your hand up and I'll take a look in the participant list for those that have the hand up, and I'll find you and you can ask away. Otherwise, if you have a question but you don't want to chime in, you can just type it into the chat and then I'll be happy to ask it for you guys. All right, so I'll kick things off. My name is John Whitmer. I'm the Senior Business Analyst at Teradyne in Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm also the Principal Tableau Designer. So the joke there is we've been using Tableau for about a year, so that makes me like the star player on your elementary school basketball team. But still, I'll take it. We have sort of informally started a CoE. We haven't done anything really official yet. It's been more of our first year trying to get Tableau off the ground where we are, and I think there's a couple of ways that Tableau can enter your company. It can be a top-down, corporate-wide initiative with a lot of support and training out there, or it can be the way that we started within our operations group, a small set of the company, maybe 100 viewer licenses, and then like 16 creators. So we're taking more the approach of a few focused people who their job is analytics to be the ones to have these different Tableau projects brought to them, and then we do sort of the project management of understanding the requirements and designing the dashboard and like our sandbox environment, and then once it's tested and approved, we then push it to IT to move into production, and then IT owns it. So where we are with our CoE is myself and another couple of individuals are sort of informally doing this, where we are sort of the quality control of things that are moving from the sandbox to production. And, we're keeping an eye on things like, consistency of the look and the feel and the formatting so that users across the company get a consistent experience, right? Making last checks on any complicated calculations and things like that. But the approach as far as ownership that we're taking is sort of a joint ownership between the business and IT, because we do have a strong IT presence. They do some of the development. In fact, that's where sort of our team is headed right now, where myself and a couple of other individuals are doing the design and solutioning work, and then pushing those projects to IT to do the actual building of the dashboards. So it's already kind of morphing from what it was, sort of a here's this tool for a few of you to play with, and it being like the Wild West, to trying to get some structure around it. So that's why I'm super interested in this conversation and appreciative of your guys' time, because although I kind of have in my head how I want this to go, I know there are lessons learned, right, that some of you who have been through this can kind of speak to, is at least what I'm hoping. So that's my piece. Also with us today, we have Annabelle Rincon, who works she is part of the leadership group, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm already stepping all over it, but part of the leadership group for the CoE at Fontebelle, if I said that correctly, and has been highlighted recently for the skill belts, the Tableau skill belts that you rolled out there. And that was recently highlighted in a blog post by, who was it, Andy, right? So welcome, Annabelle. We also have Zach Geis, who works with JP Morgan and is part of the leadership team there. Also, Neil Richards with Groupon. And what I like here is a slightly different perspective, right? Not part of the leadership group for the CoE, but you have that end user experience. And so we kind of have, I think, a nice sprinkling of users and levels of ownership for a CoE. Right, so Annabelle, if you wouldn't mind, let us know kind of your CoE journey.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Annabelle, like you said it. You will notice my French accent because I'm Spanish, but I was born and raised in France. So I hope that you can still understand me. Why I joined Fontebelle? I joined Fontebelle like 6 months ago. Before I was working for another Swiss bank. And I was leading a delivery team. So I had a team of 15 people. We were like working like crazy. And when this job offer popped up, I jumped on it because I wanted to make the difference. And for me, you can have like a bigger team, but at the end, if you want like really to enable people and to be able to scale, you need a Tableau CoE. You need a Tableau CoE to be able to support users, to train them, to put them to learn. And that is what I am doing at Fontebelle since 6 months. I'm quite happy, I have to say. It was already easy for me because when I joined, the CoE is running since more than 1 year. And all the difficult parts, the platform, everything was already set up. More or less the only administrative part that I have to do now, it's like, of course, negotiate with Tableau new licenses and send users a license number. And of course, like I'm just joking, we are like taking care of, we are 2 people, my colleague Ruben and myself. And what we do is like we are taking care of the server. We are creating the new folder. We are putting the permission. We are explaining the user how they have to request the AD group. We are explaining, we are like monitoring the server. If some dashboard is very slow, we contact the user and we try to find a solution. Why the dashboard is slow? Is it the data source? Is it the design? So we are also like running all this meeting about, so a monthly meeting about Tableau community with like the end-on trainings. We have also, we have launched 2 data visualization challenge, and I think that we were very successful. It's the second one we just launched yesterday. And the first one was when I arrived, I wanted like my user learn the new features of Tableau. I wanted that they learn like this parameter and set action, for instance. So I just launched a challenge. I explained what the feature was, and I tried to be the crazy person in the bank because, you know, they are bankers, they are very strict, and they have to have fun. They have to feel safe to ask me questions. They have to feel safe to make mistakes. And this challenge is a perfect example how they can have fun and still have the opportunity to learn something else. So by doing that, they, you know, it's like they have fun, but in reality, they can say that they learn something. They do it for a purpose. So we had a lot of success here, and I was very happy. What else? Yeah, we have launched also this skill belt. Again, I try to give like a fun twist because I want that Tableau is not seen like a burden, but really like that they have fun and they can do a better job thanks to by learning. And that's it.
No, that was great. Thank you. I have questions, but I'm going to bite my tongue for now. All right. I think we said we're going alphabetical. Neil, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with CoE Groupon?
Right. Whoever got one of the respondents is on mute in the conference call bingo. You just won. That was me. All right. So I'm at Groupon. Just to correct what you said, I'm very much involved with being part of CoE. I suppose I was at CoE, so I'm just a member of our CoE team. We have about 5. And we, round about when I joined, we were branded as the Analytics Center of Excellence. So I think there was a question about, is there a difference between a Center of Excellence and a Center of Enablement? I think we decided probably not too much. We went with Center of Excellence because it's a sort of more familiar term, if you like. And we cover more than just Tableau. Tableau is certainly where my strengths are and where my role tends to be centered. But we are also there just to help our analysts for other tech as part of their job as well. A lot of roles still for elements such as keeping the server going, making sure that the AD groups are set up properly, and monitoring what's published. We run a number of tools just to make sure that the bandwidth is okay, and that there's never any overload on the server as things are published. And then my own expertise, or my own sort of focus on the job, is very much on the Tableau side of things. Our mission, if you like, is to reduce the time to insights and of decision making with data. And from my point of view, it certainly covers a lot of the initiatives that we like to lead, such as most of my role, I would say, comes within education evangelism. So technically, I'm a BI engineer, but I prefer to be called an evangelist because I just thought that was a cooler title. And it pretty much explains what I do in terms of education and evangelism as well. So a lot of training, whether that's via webinar or on site, or whether that's self-service training as well. So similar to the skills belt that Annabelle mentioned. And yeah, that certainly sums up a lot of what I need to do. And also we sort of run various other initiatives just to try and make sure we're doing everything that we can for our users. So I think I will leave that there. Even I have some questions for Annabelle too, so I'm sure we've got lots of questions for all of us coming through. But I'll leave that there, and I'll pass the baton on to Zach.
Okay, all right, great. Thanks, Neil. So yeah, my name is Zach Geis. I lead the Tableau Center of Excellence for JP Morgan Chase, as Sean mentioned. So yeah, I'll talk you through a little bit of my journey and how I became what I am, what my team became, and all that kind of stuff. So I actually started at Chase about 5 years ago. And at that time, I was more on the business side. I helped to deliver basically a dashboard suite of applications, talking about kind of consumer and banking information. And I worked on that for about a year. And that project kind of went to the side. And I realized that there was an opening in the IT side, the team that hosted the Tableau server, and I thought it was a good fit, and it would be something that would challenge me and kind of push me out of my comfort zone of just knowing the Tableau desktop side, and that was a really great decision. So I moved over there along with one or two other people, and we decided that, you know, there was a little bit of a gap. We had IT hosting infrastructure, performing tasks like deployments and things like that, but there wasn't really a lot of enablement. At that time, there was about 2,000 users of Tableau, probably about 200 developers, and even at that scale, it was starting to get to a point where things were getting overloaded. There wasn't training. It was really becoming the wild, wild west. So my team and I took this up as an opportunity to start up a CoE. So we really just started with doing small training events for teams, starting to introduce new policies, new controls on the server so that things could be a little bit more controlled. Fast forward to the next year. At that point, we had grown to about 20,000 users. We had about probably 2,000 developers, and things had become even more gigantic and difficult to control. So at that point, we started to refine processes, introduce more opportunities for others to train themselves, more self-paced kind of things. We work with Tableau on the Skills Belt program. We actually call it the Academy inside of Tableau or inside of Chase, and that's become a really big hit as well. Fast forward again to last year, and I took over the reins of the CoE. We've grown to about 10 people. It was highlighted in the keynote at Tableau conference that we had grown to about 55,000 users at that point. So just continued growth. And then even fast forward to today, we're really focusing on a lot of automation. So getting out of the way and making sure that our users have a good experience. We're now at 70,000 users, 8,000 developers at the firm. My team of 10 pretty much manages everything that comes with that. So we have a very large scale Tableau server environment, over 20 clusters, very large pieces of hardware that support a lot of continuous growth. And we're always looking for ways to improve and basically introduce ways that, as I mentioned, we can get out of the way, we can enable people, we can make it to where it's fun, it's easy to use Tableau like it should be. So I'll stop there as well, and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome, thank you all. I have a question for you, Zach. Did I hear that right? 10 people helping 70,000?
It is. Yep, that's true.
Wow.
And we actually have plans to get into six figures very soon. So with no plans to, grow my team. So that's definitely one of those things that's very important is building processes that can scale well, even if you as your team cannot.
So would you say that's more like documentation and setting up like a train the trainer type thing so that you have sort of subject matter experts in different physical locations, or do you try to have it more functional, like somebody helping particular functions because they might use the tool in a different way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take that in two directions. One is definitely train the trainer. So as Annabelle mentioned, and we've talked a couple of times about the Skill Belt program, it's really great. So the way that we build it, it's all about, I see it as almost an extension of our team. We're building and creating those power users in the firm that are really dedicated to Tableau and its growth, and so that they can help to take some of the load and the burden off of our team. That's definitely important. The other thing that's really important, I think, is automation. So for example, in our environment, we do have a traditional dev to test the production path, and not everybody can publish to production, for example. So we spend a lot of our times actually coding applications that work alongside Tableau so that deployments can be automatically done. They can integrate with other systems. Things like that aren't reliant on a person clicking a button so that they can do them in the most self-service fashion that they can.
Okay, thank you. All right, who else? Who else has a question? I'm making notes. Annabelle or Neil?
Well, my question, I had a sort of quite specific question for Annabelle, just on the idea of introducing challenges to the team, um, because I like to introduce challenges to the team, but they can be quite a difficult thing to introduce when people don't necessarily feel that they have that dedicated time. And what we'll probably find is that no two COEs are the same because of how people might sort of report into the COE. So we're very much an advisory group, if you like, but we can't ask the analysts to take any time to do any training or to undertake any challenges, that kind of thing. So I really like the idea of setting a challenge on new features, but I was wondering if you find that works better on maybe proprietary data that you have at the bank, or I probably know what the answer is. You try and make it more fun by introducing just publicly available data or a different data set, something like that.
Yeah, the fun,
Great question.
the one on great correction, Neil. The one on new features, I did it on a fun challenge. I did on the Game of Thrones. I think it was scoring episode. I say, you don't have to learn Game of Thrones. I put a nice title, Winter is Coming. It was in autumn, so obviously. And what I did is like, I give them an excuse. I say, look, please don't spend more than 2 hours. You have 1 month, so 2 hours from one, and it's a perfect time to try to learn these new features. So there were 3 new features, I mean, that I want to highlight. I wanted to highlight the set, parameter action, and this, you know, when you can hide, what's the name? I don't know. When you can hide, yeah.
Show and hide containers, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
show and hide container. And I show them, for instance, another blog post from Andy, where he show someone use this show and hide container in order to give this user guide dashboard. And I think it was cool. So I introduced this new feature. I give them how to use this set action, drive them to a blog post, also if they can use it. And I give them like very specific time. No more than 2 hours, you can do it, you can have time, and it's a perfect time to learn these skills. So I give them an excuse, a short window, and everything. And another kind of challenge that I did in the past, and I repeated here yesterday, was to do it for a charity. So both works very well because they have an excuse again to do it. And of course they can win something, but the win, it's not a big stuff. It can be a bottle of some champagne, of wine. If you can manage and you're a big organization, most probably Tableau will give you like a free ticket for a conference or something. But if you are small, I mean, you have to find a nice, imaginative way to keep the people engaged.
I think for us, we can stretch to a sticker. Not even joking, but everything helps.
And,
So I'm interested in, oh, sorry, go ahead and finish.
No, I was wondering what you were thinking about the champion program, to have like different champion in different area of your organization. It's something I read a lot, like that you build champion. I don't know, across the organization to be able that they can help support the Tableau CoE.
Well, I can try and answer that because that's something that we are trying to instigate pretty much right now. And the ideal of a CoE, as I see it, is Zach has mentioned there's only 10 of them supporting hundreds of thousands. There's only 5 of us supporting a few thousand, and there's only you and your colleagues. So these teams can be quite small. And the ideal is we just need to identify people who are as keen as Annabelle, as me, and as Zach, and who can become Tableau champions, so they can sort of go away to their offices and kind of do our jobs for us. So particularly in Groupon, we're very dispersed around the globe. So we've got lots of different teams, which are sort of small to medium-sized teams, but they go everywhere from from Bangalore to London to Dublin to Seattle, Chicago, etc. So we would love to try and identify these champions. And one way that would be good would be to have something like a skills belt in place. So knowing that you two guys already have, my understanding is that that should be a really good way to start identifying those people. I don't think it's necessarily the only way, and potentially there might be a way of working with the analysts and their own managers to see perhaps whether it's participation in review meetings, or perhaps if we have internal user groups that would like to try and set up, who are putting themselves forward to try and run them, or if not to at least try and run them, to try and give talks to their colleagues. So I think there are a number of ways of doing it, but in speaking with Tableau, as we have recently, and also just thinking about it internally, I do agree that Tableau champions are a great thing, because the theory, and let's hope the practice too, is that it helps the three of us do our jobs by getting people to do that, spreading, well, let's use the word evangelizing, by spreading what we do across to the different geographies and different areas and just different parts of the business.
Yeah, so if I could touch on that. So I think all those things are important, and finding those evangelists is definitely critical and crucial to making what we do successful. So some of the things that we do, you mentioned the Tableau user groups, Neil. So like for us, we're also obviously very spread geographically. So we have, I think, 10 or 11 different Tableau user groups. So pretty much we have, I think, 6 here in the States. We have 2 in India. We have them all over the place. And I think that helps to foster local communities, find some leaders in there, give them that opportunity. And once you give them that opportunity, it is something that they typically attach themselves to, and they're looking for more and looking for ways to engage more. And really any other opportunities, thinking virtually. For example, we do several different things. We do a quarterly large scale update. So like twice a day, every quarter, we talk about all the big things that are changing in Tableau, all the things that are happening at the firm, things like that. We actually just did that yesterday and talked about some of our new features. We had a roundtable with some of the power users where people could ask questions, very similar to what we're doing today. We also have, we're planning a virtual summit with everything with COVID and us all being locked at home. We were actually planning to do a summit with about 700 people in Columbus, Ohio in May, but that got pushed back because of everything. So we're planning to do it virtually, so a lot of people can actually attend that and meet and find some ways to learn some new things. And obviously Tableau themselves likes to be involved, so we lean on them for a lot of different like brown bag sessions and things like that. So I think the more events and things that we can integrate people in, I've seen that resonates with people a lot, and a lot of people really latch onto that and like to be involved and help push that further.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, I had a question. Something we've touched on a little bit is about the challenges, right? So Annabelle, you had said you will throw something out there for them to do and don't spend more than 2 hours on it. So I could spend 2 days playing around in a dashboard, right? And if it's like a workout Wednesday or something and you have focused, things that you're trying to learn, I get the value of it, doing it in something that's fun and not business related. I can see that being a challenge, selling that to some managers. All right, 2 hours is not an insignificant amount of time. I get the value, and those learnings can then be transferred to the business setting. All right, so do you guys get pushback when you suggest things like that? And if you do, how do you sell them on the value of it? That's for anybody.
Neil, where are you going to go?
Answer that with the question, yes, we do. And one of the important things of being involved in a COE is to remember that not everybody is like you. If you do the challenge, I do these things in my spare time, but I have to remember that's kind of weird. Like to the group here and maybe to people listening in the community, it's not weird, but why would I want to use what I have to do at work to create these boring reports to do something else which isn't even to do with work? So there's this, you can have a certain amount of success which can sort of fizzle out quite quickly. One I'm quite excited about, which I'm going to try and implement, is, for example, the current Makeover Monday Operation Fistula tie-in, where every month they are giving a data set to visualize gender equality. So it's something that's happening every month rather than every week. So that feels like maybe that's going to be a little bit more achievable to ask an hour or two of people's time. And the group hub, we're very keen to allow people to volunteer for good causes. So if there's a possibility to kind of tie that in with this good element of it, then that makes it an easier sell. Now, this is something that the pipeline for me, and I don't know if this will, gain. There are instances where it is difficult to sell to people, for want of a better word, or to sort of persuade analytics team managers that we'd like to take, well, we'd like to suggest that those people who are still on their Tableau journey might want to take hour or two to do this challenge. Then that might be another way of doing it. But that said, I've written loads of notes about Annabelle's challenge here because I still think it's something that we need to do. And I think if you do get pushback, you need to be used to getting pushback. Sometimes if just one or two people are doing it and you really hoped that 10 people would or 50 people would, well, they might end up being your next Tableau champions that we've spoken about. So I wouldn't necessarily be put off by pushback unless it's a flat failure. And I kind of think it's okay to fail if you keep having these ideas, and if there's good reason for implementing them and good learnings for people to have, then you might find that it's a matter of time, place, bit of luck, that some will take on better than others. So don't be afraid of pushback, I would say.
Thank you.
One thing, if I could add, so all the things Neil said, completely true, and there's plenty of people that they think it's silly to go back and work on Tableau at home. I think we're kind of a unique breed here. The one thing that I would emphasize, and this is really just across the board, is finding the champion in the executive level. I think that somebody that is really going to have your back, that you can show the power of Tableau, that is probably number one on the most important list. So you can spend all this time building a great CoE, building a great practice, standing up the best servers, but if you don't get buy-in at that level where people understand what they're getting from Tableau, then it can all be for a failure. So finding those folks in the business that have your back to say, I know what Tableau can do for me, I see the value the CoE can give me, that really, things like spending an hour here and there will become nothing to them if it's in the benefit of improving what they've already seen.
No, that's a great thought. And so I think you kind of answered this, but do you see that as being a role of the CoE to find and cultivate that senior relationship, the sponsor at that level?
Yeah. I do. I mean, it's not solely in the hands of the CoE. I think you're going to have developers, you're going to have teams that are developing dashboards and content, that there's going to be a relationship there to get to that level. But there's definitely part of it that's going to be on the CoE and making sure that they're enabled, that they have the tools that they need to succeed. I think that's our job, is to make sure that they have what they need to show their managers what they can do with Tableau. And sometimes we're there, especially in the beginning, to hold their hands and make sure that they know where to go and what to do, and try and give them direction on developing the right things. But definitely there's a lot of roles to play in making sure that you have the right people to have your back.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, for instance,
I'll just
in
take
my
a quick...
case, I just wanted to add something. Yeah, in my case, for instance, we are very involved in doing prototype or like supporting team that don't have yet a Tableau developer or don't have the skill. And it's also like a way to show them that in some week we can do something that is very useful for them. And we show the value of visual analytics like this. It's also part of our after something that I have done and that's at least convinced high manager. We have run recently like a survey. You know, you have this Tableau survey that you can run and ask all your user if they use Tableau, which basis they use Tableau, what they save in terms of money or time since that they have Tableau or have this dashboard. And having this data, it's also very valuable. So you can see, hey, look, we have like this respondent of this survey. Having this dashboard make us save this number of hours every week and most probably save us money. And that is the way that usually you got the approval of high manager. Now I shut up.
No. Thank you. So the questions are starting to come in a little bit on the chat. I'll just restate what I had said off the bat in case anybody joined late. If you want to type in a question, I'll be happy to ask it. If you want to ask it yourself, there's a raise hand feature somewhere buried in here. So do that and we'll get to you too. So the first one we've got is, in what ways do your COEs reach your audience? So this probably has a little bit to do with the size of the company, but some ideas are blog posts, live meetings, videos, newsletters. So the answer is probably yes, all of those things to some degree. I'll tell you, so from my perspective, we have, about 100, 120 users, and they're all pretty centrally located. So we do live meetings. I do have an internal user group that I run, and we kind of look at it like open office hours from school, right, where you used to go and see your professor. So that's what I do. I have once a month, I have an hour, I'll be in this room, I'll have the phone conference on, call in if you have questions, or, you're not sure how to format something, or calculation questions, or whatever it is, right? It's not super structured, but it's sort of a place that people just kind of can keep in their calendar in case they need help. At this point, we're not doing blog posts and newsletters and things like that, but as we start to scale it, I think that's all a great idea. I don't know what others are using. What do you guys do as far as that goes, the reach?
Yeah, so I can talk to that a little bit. So pretty much all of the above. And I think one of the most important things is to centralize those kind of things, the communication. So one of the things that I think is the most important thing that we do is we have our internal portal for Tableau, and everything about Tableau is there. So rather than sending people to different things, if they want to find out information about the user group and the community and different sessions and different things like that in different locations, if you have the one central portal that everybody knows where it's at, that you put everything on there as far as, for example, for ours, we have any events that are coming, anything about learning, that's where you actually contact us, you submit a ticket with us, all of our help articles, everything is in that one location. And so it's very easy to announce things from there. For generally what we do. So as I mentioned before, we have Tableau come in for a lot of different sessions. We do quarterly sessions. We do the training events that I had mentioned as well. We have typically an annual summit, which is one location. We invite people to come in. Like the last time that we had this, we had Ben Jones in as our keynote, invite others to kind of talk about Tableau and join in. And really, I mean, we have a Slack channel where all the community's there and everybody's just chatting and talking about things that are happening in Tableau. So the more that you can bring Tableau front and center, and I think a lot of it is about bringing in that community that we feel outside and kind of the space here into your company, and people start to get it.
that's good to hear. We've actually just started with Office 365, and the first group I created was a Tableau user group in Teams. So same idea.
There you go.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Something, you know, you don't have to wait for that monthly meeting. All right.
I think we might have lost Neil.
Yeah, so Neil was having some video buffering issues, or he might have dropped, but hopefully we'll get him back. Annabelle, did you have anything on that question, or did we say it all for you?
Yeah, it's the same. Huh? We have almost everything. We communicate by email, blog. We have like an intranet page with all the documentation there. We put all the webinars that are coming outside our community, like this month we have that and that advice. I mean, anything, I'm bothering them in every way possible in order that either they learn or they do something.
Good. Perfect. Okay, we have Neil back. Excellent. All right, we have a live question from Charlotte Nichols. Let me take you off mute, Charlotte. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Awesome. Cool. So, hi, I'm Charlotte. I work for Lloyd's Banking Group. We've got quite a big centre of excellence, I think, compared to a lot of them. So we've got there's almost 50 of us now in the CoE after a recent merge. So we're quite a big group, but something we are struggling with, which is partly due to our organisation structure, I think, more than anything else, is working out how to have our Tableau server best enabled to get the best from our analysts. And I was wondering, some people mentioned about, AD structures and stuff, if there was anything you guys could share about how you kind of, set up with your projects and your sites and stuff, or if you had any maps you'd be able to share with me afterwards. That'd be really handy.
I hate to keep taking answers, but Tableau servers kind of my thing. I love Tableau servers, so I'd be happy to talk afterwards as well. So I can talk definitely to how we've structured things, and then we can certainly talk offline if it makes sense to see if there's other options. The way that we've set it up is we have an environment for dev, test, and prod. That's kind of our environment structure. We have a site per LOB. If I could go back in time, I would probably strip out sites, because adding sites just honestly adds clutter. And even if you go back to Tableau, their kind of best practice and recommendation is to not introduce sites.
Uh-oh. Is that just me, or did we lose Zach?
Can't hear anything either, if that makes it any better.
Yeah. Oops. Zach, I don't know if you can hear us, but halfway through, you started to do the mime. We could see your mouth, but no words. Well, the joys of working from home. All right. If anybody else has an opinion on that, otherwise we might have to have Zach try and reboot.
I mean,
Charlotte,
if you want, we can have like a meeting, private meeting, but later.
Hey, sorry about that.
Zach,
I don't know what you guys caught and what you didn't catch, because I just kept on talking. Where was I dropped?
About best practice, you didn't structure the same way.
So very quickly,
use the
for sites. Okay, yes. So didn't miss too much. So sites typically, yes, I would say don't use sites. And then where I went from there was the way that we're set up is we have a project for every team. So if a team comes to us and basically says, I want Tableau, we give them their own project, and we associate a user group, a tester group, and a developer group for that project. Sometimes they want more complexity if you want to have potentially like different staggering use cases where some people see something, some people don't. You want to manage permissions. You can have more groups, but typically it's going to be kind of one-for-one user group to project, and then projects within a site.
Cool. That was really good. I might reach out to you again offline.
Yeah, happy to talk anytime.
Chat through.
Dumb question, Zach. When you say sites,
Yeah.
what do you mean exactly by that?
Yeah, so Tableau has multiple layers of kind of granularity and sectioning. So a project is usually what you're going to see. A project you can consider like a folder, something that's dedicated to a grouping of dashboards. A site is a little bit more tangible. It's an actual barrier between content. So it's almost like you're taking a server and you're sectioning it off into multiple servers so that it completely walled off. The advantage is if you have multiple sites, they can't see each other. No matter what you do, there's no possibility for someone in site A to see anything for site B. So a lot of times they're used for elevated security, like if you want an HR site, so you know they're sectioned off and quarantined. The disadvantage is the same thing that I mentioned as an advantage. There's no sharing. So if you ever wanted to have any sort of overlap, you can't do that. It also changes the URL. So typically a server that has no sites or just the one site would be like view/workbook. This would be site/view/workbook. So you got to keep that in mind if you ever change anything. Like I said, typically Tableau is going to recommend don't go the site route, but there are reasons even aside from this. Like if you wanted, you can do certain configurations, like you can set up SAML security in one site and not the other. So there are some more technical reasons why you might want to separate, but usually if it's just a segregate access, then you can do that with projects and AD groups.
Right, that's where my head was going. If you're worried about security, can you not do that like row-level security or, you know, AD?
Yeah, it's usually overkill to go the site route, but sometimes for like control partners, it's one of those things that they like to hear that. Like you're walled off, there's no potential because somebody might, you know, set something wrong with an AD group and then somebody sees something else, but this way make sure that you're pretty much you're good.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. All right, any other comments on that before we go to the next question?
In my case, because we are working in a bank, we have different sites to segregate it very well. That asset management is not saying HR and everything. And after inside, we have the project secured by the AD group and sometimes row-level security table on top to add a little complexity. Yeah. But I like your way, Zach. I'm more like about deployment. I have worked in a lot of different banks, and the deployment method are quite different. For instance, I will not name any names. In some of them, they have this pre-prod project, and after IT was with a lot of mistakes, was deploying to prod and breaking a lot of things because they were not trained. It's not IT fault. They are like usually very smart. We in another bank we authorize the user publishing directly to prod without any issue. They are responsible of their project, and we are here to support if they need. But I think that you don't have the same approach, right? You have the pre-prod project, and IT has to deploy in prod.
Yeah, but like I mentioned, so now we do have automation. So we've built in automation, so it makes life a lot easier for people.
All right, great. So we have a question in the chat. And what other competency areas outside of Tableau technical skills do you enable users? So do your teams have dedicated resources to teaching UI, UX, user-centered design, insights discovery, any sort of fringe Tableau skills?
I can start. So that would be nice. It would be really nice to have somebody that's like dedicated to all of those like areas. I can say, and it's kind of funny, I know that I've seen Robert join when I was looking at the user list. So Robert Janizik is on my team. So I think everybody, if you follow him on Twitter, you just seen that he did a UI dashboard and he's kind of talking about user experience and web development. So we do have the experience on my team. So we definitely focus on a lot of delivery. So for example, build out like a style guide that talks about a lot of good things that you should do with Tableau, but we're not to the point where we're really like entering training options for those kind of things. I think especially with a large bank like ourselves, we would kind of step on others' toes if we were trying to push out into those areas. I think that there's definitely a lot of overlap in certain things, like potentially, database structuring and engineering and things like that, that really will have downstream effects on Tableau dashboard performance and things like that. But when it comes to UI and stuff like those, I think it's kind of secondary for us. It's definitely important. It's something we try to push materials that are in that direction, but we don't have anybody that's like dedicated to a role like that. I don't know if Annabelle or John, if you guys have any different on that.
No, we don't teach those things yet. I think it's too new for us, but I mean, kind of maybe indirect teaching things like dashboard templates, right? So we've got a few things in production. So those that are successful, we're trying to then take them and strip them down and just have the template, right? This is the use case, this is the layout. I don't know if that's exactly teaching, but I think the more you get exposed to those templates and the way certain successful dashboards look, that's, I suppose, a form of teaching. We also link to, I think you said like you do the same, Zach, the different talks maybe that are on like different past TC conferences. So things like, Chantilly's great talk this last year on design for a non-designer. Things like that go miles for new users. So we try to publish those on our page as well.
Yeah, awesome.
And I would say similar as well. It's kind of a secondary, I don't want to say secondary importance, but I'm sort of careful that when we sort of bring out training that there is the standard Tableau training that's available, but also just sort of try and bring in what advantages I have from partly my experience, but you don't want to go doing visits like I do. You wouldn't want that to come out of Groupon, but more partly from sort of community aspects, as you said as well. So, with the guys who know what amazing blog that Lindsay might have just put out, or Mark Reed, or I could, the Flirtage Twins, I could name as many of these as possible. So I sort of mention them, I might mention them at the end of training, or we have a regular newsletter, which I try and write every 2 weeks, which will mostly focus on our core offering, and it will focus on what we've been doing as a team. But I will always make sure that there's those extra elements in there as well. What's new in the community, what's interesting, what's a bit, a bit new and different, what is a really good resource that we've just come across. So I think as others have said, it feels like it's not as important to be sort of going into sort of UI UX. It is important from a performance point of view. So if we can sort of tie these things in together, we can tie in the fact that the dashboard is poorly performing because of all these filters, for example. Then you can maybe sort of bring in some UI UX advice around that, which not only potentially improves the experience, but also is going to help improve the performance of the dashboard. So if you can sort of sell it that way, then that's what we aim to do.
Okay, perfect.
One of the questions I think that would be interesting is, what if you could go back in time would you change? So I think we've got varying levels of experience. So maybe kick it out. I didn't realize you came back, Neil. So Neil, if you could go back to kind of the beginning and kind of change something about your CoE, is there anything that you can think of?
Oh, that's a good question. But I've got more answers as to what I would try and change about the organisation than what I would try and change about the CoE. And that I don't mean that in a bad way, but I just mean the challenges that we face are to do with geography, but they're to do with inconsistency. But inconsistency is nobody's fault. They're different teams that have grown in different places and don't have the same communications platform, anything like that, or the same sort a place to go. So if I could change something, it would be partly outside of the COE's remit, if you like, or partly just to really try and make that a real attack of our focus as well, is just sort of unifying all these different teams, their communication platforms. And that's partly what we're trying to do, but that's still a sort of ongoing process, and it would be, you know, amazing to have that sort of sorted out from the start. In terms of what we do, no, not really, because as I say, it's encouraging that it's an ongoing process. So if you have something that you don't think is necessarily working or getting amazing engagements in your current teams, there's always the chance that it's going to work better as more and more people sort of get onboarded. So you might have a training syllabus which has a certain level of uptake, but the new intake are going to be much more interested in being able to use that. So yeah, rather than saying there's things I do differently, I sort of tend to prefer to think of it as thinking that everything is useful, even if it doesn't seem like it at the time, because there is always things to do, and there's always ways to sort of, it's a cyclical process.
Yeah, not that we've had a long history at my company with it, but one thing I wish we had sort of discussed and gotten buy-in from up front is, you know, we're all analytical people and we're all good at Excel. It's been our main analytical tool for as long as the thing's been around, right? But this, even then, you're maybe 80% of the way to being good at Tableau if you're good at Excel. So there's got to be dedicated time to learning the tool, I think. It's, you know, we're a lean manufacturing company, and so we took this tool on and we didn't really say, okay, now we've got to have these people that are responsible for using the tool, carve out time for them, right? It sort of ends up being something on top of what you already do. And so it's been a long road uphill to get that user base really proficient in it, and, you know, to then show the company the value of the tool. So that's kind of been my my view on our short path so far. I wish we had gotten some understanding up front of what needed to be done, and, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but that would have been a good thing, I think, to discuss up front.
In my size, I would like to have been present at the beginning, because I think that what's like now is like we don't have a data strategy. So sometimes people complain about, oh, my dashboard is slow. Yeah, but your dashboard is slow, is connected to a Oracle database, and there is no extract, no possibility or whatever. So what can I do here? I try to optimize your dashboard. It's very simple. If it's slow, it's not our concern. So I think that having data strategy discussion is very beneficial. And the second thing is that when I arrive, I see a lot of dashboards that look the same, and but not use the best visual practices. So for instance, using, I don't know, there is like 5 business, 6 business, 7 business units, and they all use a very bright color. So at the end, your dashboard looks pink, blue, red, yellow. You say, oh my God, what is happening? I'm actually not true, but it's like very colorful. And we are working now with a lot of users saying, hey, look, don't have that. Don't have all your filter on the left-hand side in yellow color, because I don't see anything what you are showing to me. So we have to go back and do a lot of work. And of course, when we do that, they like it. But if we would have been at the beginning and give good example at the beginning, it's always easier than read on.
I mean, it's a tough balance sometimes. The end user doesn't necessarily need to or want to know all of the reasons a dashboard would or wouldn't work well. They just know theirs doesn't work well, right? So Tableau is awful, right? They just jump right to that. But it might be nice to have some sort of an upfront guidelines of try not to have 800,000 marks in your sheet, and, you know, connecting to a spreadsheet on some remote server. right? So all of those things, just, if you do it, you can, but be aware, right? So some of that education in some sort of an easily digestible way is probably a great idea. Okay, we're just about out of time. So I guess parting shots, anybody have a last question or comment? Okay, good. So wrapping up, thank you guys very much, guys and gals, for coming and imparting your wisdom. I appreciate it. I hope everyone online got something out of it. So this has been recorded. Where it'll be posted, I do not know. So stay tuned on Twitter if you're interested. I'll reply to this so you guys know where it ends up. So thanks again, everyone. Stay safe. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.